convinced his advisor they wouldn't distract him from his studies, he sent for my mom and Mitty. Coming to Vancouver was a shock for Mom. She left behind a life of privilege in which hired help performed all the household tasks. Now, not only did she have to cook and clean, but she also had to support my father while he was in school. Mom worked 3 jobs to support her family: at the post office, selling Avon products, and taking care of a special needs child, all while tending to Mitty and giving birth to a second child, my oldest sister, Simi. My parents left behind a lot when they left India, not just wealth and comfort, but also family and friends. They knew America was a place of unlimited opportunity, and they wanted those opportunities for their children, even if it meant starting over. I know they were homesick at times for their native country, but they never ceased to remind us that it had been worth it to leave. America was a place where opportunities couldn't be bought. They knew that here, if you worked hard, you could be as successful as you wanted to be. So after finishing school in Canada, my father looked for a job in the United States. But it was 1969, a bad year to be looking for work in higher education. One day, Dad was on the phone telling a friend from back home that he was thinking about going back to India because he couldn't find work in the States. "You can't go," his friend said. "America's the best country in the world." The next day, my dad's friend called back. The college Dad's friend taught chemistry at, Voorhees College in Denmark, South Carolina, was looking for an associate professor of biology. Dad didn't know anything about the college or where it was located, but he accepted anyway. When he told his colleagues in Vancouver that he was heading to South Carolina to teach, one of them commented, seriously, that he might get shot before he got his first paycheck. My mom remembers landing in Columbia when the family first arrived in South Carolina. It was dark. Mom and Dad had been told that Columbia was the capital, the seat of government, and the state's most important city. Where were the lights, she wondered? Where were the big buildings? Columbia was a much smaller place back then than it is now, but it was a metropolis compared to where they were headed. Voorhees was a small, mostly minority college with a student body of about 700. Denmark, the city it was located in, wasn't much bigger. It's difficult to overstate what unusual figures my mom and Dad cut in Central South Carolina in 1969. There was my mom, tiny and determined in her traditional sari, and there was my father, tall and proud in his Sikh turban. From the beginning, their new country showed them both a boundless capacity for acceptance and the ugly residue of a less tolerant time. On the one hand, my father was welcomed as a professor at the college, and my mother was given a job teaching 6th grade social studies. But South Carolina in the late 60s had another side as well. When it came time for my parents to find a home, no one would rent to them. Word quickly got around that my father worked at what some people called the black school, and besides that, he and my mom were obviously foreigners themselves. When they finally found a house, they had to buy it, not rent it, and they were told there were conditions. They couldn't entertain black people in it, they couldn't have alcohol in it, and they had to sell it back to the man they had bought it from. It was located in the nearby town of Bamberg, population 2,500. Bamberg was born in the 1830s as a water tank erected along the newly built railroad between Hamburg on the Georgia border and Charleston on the sea. Over the years, a town sprang up around that water tank. By the time my family got there 140 years later, Bamberg had a courthouse, a school, a fire department, and a Methodist church. The railroad was still there too. But now instead of just connecting Hamburg and Charleston, the railroad tracks divided Bamberg. On one side lived the black residents, and on the other, the white. We were the first Indian family ever to live in Bamberg, in a time and a place that only knew black and white. We didn't fit in either category. We weren't dark enough to be black, or pale enough to be white. We were brown. That difference, our difference, was an inescapable fact. We coped the only way we knew how. We went into survival mode. We clung to one another tightly. We worked hard. We were respectful to our neighbors. We tried to fit in. Today, when we refer to our family back then, we call ourselves the original Sikhs. We are all married now with children, and our family is much bigger. But back then, we just had one another, the 6 of us, Mom, Dad, Mitty, Simi, me, and eventually my baby brother, Gogi. Life as the original Sikhs was pretty simple. Mom and Dad were busy at their various